More words of encouragement have come out for the Pittsburgh Steelers signal caller, Matt Canada, this time by none other than former and future Hall of Fame quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. We're going to get into what he said and what it means for the Pittsburgh Steelers and potentially what direction the Steelers are going to be going when it comes to the offensive coordinator position. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to ring that notification bell. That way you're notified of all of our content that comes out on a regular basis. With that being said, I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers, and welcome to the huddle. Matt Canada, the Pittsburgh Steelers signal caller, got some more words of encouragement. Earlier, or as soon as the game was over, Najee Harris and Kenny Pickett talked, encouraging about Matt Canada. And then in the exit press release, press conference for Matt Tomlin, he also had some words of encouragement for Matt Canada. And now, former great Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger also has some positive words or praises for the offensive signal caller. Ben Roethlisberger, in a recent podcast of his called Channel 7, in a podcast called Footballing with Ben Roethlisberger, he stated, and I quote, I thought Matt did great. Roethlisberger said during the show, people talk about him, get rid of him, this and that, and the other. 7-2 down the stretch, found a way. I know they're not putting up 40 to 50 points, but they also wanted Randy Fichtner ran out of here after we were putting up 30-some points a game and throwing the ball too much. Now we're running the ball a lot, and they want to throw the ball and put up more points. End of the quote. So Ben Roethlisberger basically praising Matt Canada and how he's able to turn things around, go 7-2, finding a way to win games. He kind of threw a little bit of shade to the fans when it came to the hypocrisy of the fan base when it comes to not being happy, not talking about ball being thrown a lot more, ball put in the air 40 times a game, 50 times a game under Randy Fichtner, and everybody wanted him gone. They get Matt Canada, and he is doing something quite the opposite, towards the second half of the season there, where he was running the ball more often than passing the ball. And I think that was a positive thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Limiting a rookie quarterback's exposure to opposing defenses and managing his play and not making it too, overly complicated could be a huge hit to a quarterback's confidence and their ability in their career. And so, you go back and you look at Ben Roethlisberger's stats for his rookie season. He was averaging under 200 yards per game. Granted, his touchdown-interception ratio was better, but he was also not putting down the stats on the ground as Kenny Pickett was. And so you have to look into this season as in context, and I've mentioned this multiple times. Matt Canada was starting off with a Mitch Trubisky. We all may have our opinion as far as the degree of talent that Mitch Trubisky is. However, at the same token, he was a new quarterback, so regardless of that degree of talent, he was a new quarterback to this system, new to the team, new to the city. It was going to be some growing pains getting him adjusted. After the Pittsburgh Steelers, one way or another thought that his trajectory wasn't, going at the angle or in the upward trajectory that they were anticipating or faster or higher than they would want than to have put, a rookie quarterback in. They decided to do that, the latter, and put the quarterback, Kenny Pickett, in. Now, once the Pittsburgh Steelers did that, we have to, again, put in some context. Kenny Pickett didn't come in until halfway through the Jets game. He had already missed a month of game plan action. He had hardly any time with the ones throughout training camp and preseason. And he actually talks about this in his press conference that, he was trying to catch up. He didn't have that chemistry between the players, and as the team got comfortable and that chemistry started to build, and understanding of the offense started to get better, we saw this team start to utilize more of a playbook, become a little bit less predictable, and actually move the ball down the field. Now, were they getting it into the end zone on a consistent enough basis that we would all feel comfortable with? No, they weren't. However, what was the expectation there? the same thing as the Steelers had when they had Ben Roethlisberger in the red zone? Were we expecting Kenny Pickett to come out here year one after missing a month of play time and not having any time with the first team reps, that he was going to come out here and continue the standard that Ben Roethlisberger had, a Hall of Fame quarterback who was, his best work was done in the red zone here recently. And so, when you put those things into context and you realize, there is going to be a step down between the quarterbacks and the play there, especially in those weighty moments or in those moments in the red zone. I mean, but you expect that those things were to develop and get better, and that's what we saw in this game or in this season. We saw a team that was developing and getting better, and as they did and they got closer, things got better. One key example as far as Kenny Pickett developing and getting better in those key weighty situations was in Miami. He was given the opportunity to go down the field and score and win the game, and he was given two opportunities, and in both of them he threw interceptions. You fast forward to Vegas, Christmas Eve in Pittsburgh against Vegas Raiders. He was put in a situation where he was going to drive down the field, have to score a touchdown to win, and he does so. And then he does so the next weekend against Baltimore. Now, if you guys were expecting an offensive onslaught in those two games right then and there, I think your expectation was wildly higher than it should have been. I mean, you had a Christmas Eve game where the temperature was in the negative degrees with windshield and windy. I don't think anybody expected anyone to go in there and put up 30 points in that game. And then when you go against Baltimore, you're looking at a game that's usually won by 3 points, and it's a hard-nosed, well-fought, well-taught, well-coached teams that are going up against each other that are going to minimize the points and the ability to score points. And then you also looked at the fact that both teams love to utilize the running game, which was going to minimize possessions because the clock was going to be running. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens with one possession each in the first quarter. Now, I mentioned it in the pregame. In those games, the Pittsburgh Steelers needed to optimize their possessions and score touchdowns instead of field goals because the opportunities were not going to be there. This was not going to be a game where there was going to be a lot of possessions, just due to the fact and the nature in which both teams wanted to operate the football on offense. And so with all that being said, I think Ben Roethlisberger is absolutely right. The offense went 7-2, and that's not just to Matt Canada, but that's to the team as a whole. That's a rookie quarterback, understanding the offense, understanding where the players are supposed to be, and everybody being on the same page and gelling and having that chemistry built. Early on in the season, there was a lot of issues. Players running in, wide receivers running into each other down the field, illegal men down the field, and that continued until the last game, but not so much as often as it was early on in the season. There was always somebody illegally down the field. Pre-snap penalties were huge, and all that was a young team, playing probably not as confident as they should or could, and having to go through some growing pains that every young team would. Now, we all saw the trajectory and we saw the motion in which this ship was going. I honestly think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a much better football team than the Miami Dolphins and have a better chance of going into Buffalo and perhaps winning that game versus Miami at this point. And that wasn't something that you could say throughout the entire season. Many people, including myself, thought that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to end up with a top 10 draft pick based on the trajectory they were going after, going into the bye week. Fortunately, they turned it around. They found an identity. They found a way to move the ball and to be successful. And I think that, we shouldn't blow something up as it's starting to get better. If you bring in a new offensive coordinator, there was reports and rumors throughout the entire offseason that Matt Canada handpicked his staff. And so that's his assistants. That's the whole 9 yards. You go in there, you replace him. Somebody's going to come in and want to do, bring their own staff. They're not going to want to work under Matt Canada's. And so then everybody across the board has to learn a brand new system and a whole nine, everything. And so if you go into that type of situation and not expect there to be growing pains, then your expectations are pretty unrealistic. That's basically what it is. But, next year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are still averaging less than 20 points a game. You've given this guy an opportunity to be a coach in the league for 3 years, 2 years back to back with his staff, with the quarterback that he wanted in Kenny Pickett, quarterback that he feels that probably, and we all feel that is a quarterback that would fit the scheme in which he operates fairly well. He's mobile, he's quick, decision making is there, accuracy is there. And so, if all those things he can't put together by the end of next year, in the middle of next year, then yeah, by all means, cut the guy and find somebody who's a little bit more experienced. I just feel that a lot of folks were clamming and clapping for a college type style coordinator before they got before they got Matt Canada. They wanted a Cliff Kingsbury or Sean McVay or whatever. And, they wanted somebody with new thoughts, new minds, something fresh. Get what you want and careful what you wish for. We got somebody who likes to do misdirection and all this other crap. And I shouldn't call it crap because some of it worked fairly well. Some of it didn't. But they're all learning and they're all growing at the same time. And I think that this offense is going in the right trajectory. Let's keep moving it. Let's keep going. Let me know in the comment section. Do you think Big Ben is off his rocker? Should the Steelers still fire Matt Canada? Do you think that Matt Canada is going to get fired after this? He hasn't been fired to this point. I think that option is probably out the window. I think he'll be back. Let me know in the comment section. And let me know if you want him fired, who would you bring in? There's a couple of people who recently got terminated of their position. Cliff Kingsbury being one of them. Is he a guy that you would want to see in the black and gold, coordinating the offensive scheme? Let me know in the comment section. With that being said, I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. Peace.